Welcome to Quick Course Digest. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the fundamentals of supply chain and logistics. It's this invisible network that basically powers our entire global economy. And over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how it all comes together. All right, so here's where we're headed. First, we're going to tackle the big picture. What even is a modern supply chain? Then we'll dig into the strategy behind sourcing and outsourcing. After that, we'll explore the whole lean philosophy for getting super efficient, touch on the critical role of ethics, which is huge these days, and wrap things up with the actual tools that managers use to make it all happen.
All right, first up, the modern supply chain. So what exactly is this massive interconnected system? Let's peel back some of those layers.
Have you ever really stopped to wonder how that package or your morning coffee or even your smartphone actually made its journey to you? Just think about it for a second. Every single thing you own has been on this incredible journey, weaving through this complex web of suppliers and manufacturers and distributors. Well, that journey, that's the supply chain in action. So, what we're talking about here is supply chain management, or SCM for short. It's really about the strategic coordination of all those moving parts. You can kind of think of it as both an art and a science, right? It's about getting the right product to the right place at the right time in the right condition, and this is key, for the right cost. When it's all working perfectly, it's like the invisible backbone of all commerce. You don't see it, but you definitely notice if it was gone. Okay, so where does it all begin? Before a single product even gets made, a company has to face this really critical decision. What are we going to handle ourselves, in-house? And what are we going to pay someone else to do? And that brings us right into the world of strategic sourcing and outsourcing. So you've basically got two paths. On one side, there's the in-house model, where you keep a tight grip and control everything yourself. On the other side, you've got outsourcing, where you team up with specialists. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a simple choice. It literally defines how a company operates, where it puts its money, and ultimately, how it competes out in the marketplace. So you might be asking, why do so many companies go the outsourcing route? Well, the benefits can be absolutely huge. For one, you get to tap into a partner's economies of scale, which usually means better costs. It also frees up your own team to focus on what they're truly great at, like designing cool new products or marketing. Plus, you get all this flexibility to scale up or down, and you get instant access to expertise it might take you years to build on your own. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are definitely risks involved. If you pick the wrong partner, you could be looking at quality problems, a loss of direct control of your own product, and just major headaches trying to get everything to work together. You might even get hit with unexpected costs for stuff like labeling or special packaging. So the takeaway here is really clear. A successful outsourcing plan lives or dies by how well you vet your partners and manage those relationships. And look, while those risks are real, the payoff for getting it right is just enormous. There is a study by Deloitte that looked at companies with really, really efficient supply chains, the kind often built on smart outsourcing. And what they found was that a staggering 79% of them generate revenue that's higher than the industry average. That is a massive competitive advantage. Okay, so we've talked about who does the work. Now let's get into how the work actually gets done. And this brings us to a really powerful philosophy for running a super efficient operation: lean management. This whole concept was born out of the legendary Toyota production system, and it's built on a really simple but kind of revolutionary idea. You relentlessly focus on creating value for the customer by systematically getting rid of waste. And here's the key insight, the real aha moment. If a customer wouldn't be willing to pay for an activity, then it's waste, period, and it's gotta go. So this whole methodology is built on 5 core principles. First, you have to define what value even means, but from the customer's point of view. Then, you map out every single step in your process to see where you're actually creating that value. The next goal is to make that value flow without any interruptions. Then, you set up a pull system, which basically means you only make what's needed, right when it's needed. And finally, you just pursue perfection. It's this never-ending cycle of getting better and better. So what exactly is waste in a supply chain? That's the key question, right? Because in the world of lean, waste is so much more than just, stuff you throw in the garbage. It's really about any kind of inefficiency. The lean philosophy actually pinpoints 8 specific kinds of waste. We're talking about things like defects or overproducing stuff that nobody's ordered yet. There's waiting around for parts or having tons of extra inventory just sitting in a warehouse collecting dust. It also includes wasted transportation and motion, but one of the biggest ones is unused talent. Not listening to the ideas of the people on the front lines who do the work every single day. Getting rid of all of these, that's the key to a seriously efficient operation. Okay, but being fast and cheap isn't the whole story anymore, not by a long shot. In today's world, there's another layer to supply chain management that is absolutely non-negotiable, and that's ethics and sustainability. It's the conscience of commerce. And make no mistake, this is not some fringe issue anymore. A huge survey by OpenText asked over 25,000 consumers around the world how important ethical sourcing was to them. And the number of people who said it mattered was a massive 81%. This has totally shifted from a niche concern to a mainstream absolute expectation. And it's not just talk either. People are actually voting with their wallets. That same research found that consumers are willing to pay a pretty significant premium for products they know are sourced responsibly. The big question is how much more. On average, 17.5%. That's not just a nice to have, that creates a really clear and powerful business case for doing the right thing. So what are we actually talking about when we say ethical sourcing? Well, it's a pretty broad commitment. It means making sure you have fair labor practices and prohibiting horrible things like child labor. It means taking real responsibility for your environmental footprint, from cutting carbon emissions to managing waste. At the end of the day, it's about making sure the entire journey of a product is something a company can actually stand behind and be proud of. All right, so we've covered the what, the who, the how, and the why. Now it's time to get into the nuts and bolts, the actual tools that managers use to juggle all these incredibly complex projects and turn a good strategy into a reality. Two of the big ones you'll hear about are Gantt charts and PERT charts. Think of a Gantt chart like a simple bar chart laid out on a calendar. It's awesome for tracking progress over time. A PERT chart, on the other hand, is more like a flowchart or a web. It's perfect for really complex projects where you're not totally sure how long each step will take, because it's great at showing how all the different tasks depend on each other. So with a PERT chart, you basically list out everything you need to do, figure out what has to happen before something else can start, and estimate how long each thing will take. And this lets you find something called the critical path. The best way to think about it is like the longest line of dominoes in your project. It's the one sequence of tasks that dictates the absolute minimum time your project can be finished in. Any delay on that path, even just one day, delays the whole shebang. So it tells you exactly where you need to focus all your attention to avoid problems. And the real power of the Gantt chart, as this quote really nails, is visibility. It creates one single, clear picture of the project timeline that everyone can look at. I mean, everyone, from your suppliers to the folks in the warehouse, can see the schedule, understand their part, and work together like a well-oiled machine. Okay, so let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Think of it this way. Strategic sourcing, that's your operational blueprint. The lean philosophy, that's your engine, maximizing value by cutting out waste. Ethical sourcing is both your moral compass and a smart business move. And finally, those project management tools, well, they're the steering wheel that turns your strategy into reality. And that brings us to one final thought to leave you with. With technology like automation and AI moving at lightning speed, this entire field is changing faster than ever before. So the real question for all of us is, what's the next great challenge, or maybe the next great opportunity for this incredible engine of global commerce?